Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. After an impressive weekend for OpTic Tector, Shotzzy has given some thoughts on the way things have gone with Priestahh for the last couple of weeks and the development they've had in playing together as an SMG duo. Shotzzy believes that he understands now how Pred plays and how he needs to play in order to get the most out of him as a teammate, and it certainly seems to have been working towards the end of last weekend. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, I know there's been lots of debate on this over the last couple of weeks. The Slate versus the ELO site. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's called the HyDra site, is it? Which is basically, if you guys remember, World War II, which is also a Sledgehammer game, the red dot site that you'd get on the bar in that game was like a circular thing. That's what the HyDra is. I actually really quite like that one. But most people use either Slate or ELO. The start of the game, the ELO, whatever it's called, like the Reflector or something, like that was the one that everybody would use, because it's not very often you get an ELO looking site. The ELO was a site in Black Ops 3, and you know, the two lines and then the kind of floating dot in the middle. It's a very well liked site. But I will say most pros lately have moved to the Slate. Whether it is just pure, you know, whether there's anything in it between the two of them and it's just personal preference, that is what you would believe is the case, and what probably is the case. But to be honest, we've seen lots of pros start on the Mark III Reflector, and then Kenny says, or at least Dashy says, and Kenny say, that Kenny was influential in switching people over. So now, almost all the pros, it's probably gone from like 70% Mark III Reflector ELO sites to 80% maybe Slate Reflectors at the moment, so it should be all personal preference, but it's kind of funny how the pros work, isn't it? Because they seem to think the Slate Reflector is better. Whether it is or not, I think that's you know, a matter for debate. Also, the pros will have to decide whether Grease arrives into the competitive rotation. Most players, or at least you know, most content guys, seem to think that Grease is going to be viable here for competitive play. Whether it is, I guess we'll have to see. The pros will hopefully play some 8s on it over this winter break period, because this is their chance to test it while there's no matches on. Then the matches begin again in the early part of January. They play a couple more weeks of qualifiers. We then go to Major 1 in Boston, and then after that, that's when potentially a change to the rotation can be had. There's also rumours that given the new spawn update, Terminal is going to be trash. Apparently, the new spawns make Terminal basically unplayable, which is what we're going to be playing in January, because, you know, the spawns are going to be on the new update in January. So that's when we might potentially, it might be a necessity to switch out a map in the rotation, and hopefully Greece could come in. Yes, there's the water, but let's be honest, we played HyDra last year, so hopefully it's not so bad and there is some value in this. Also wanted to mention, if you guys are UK based, there's a really cool LAN tournament coming up in Middlesbrough, March the 2nd and the 3rd. Tickets on sale, I believe now. I saw this floating around, so I thought I'd just mention it for you guys if you want to attend. LAN, Spring Open, it's going to be, I think they even say, yeah, so multiplayer 4v4 competitive, CDL rule set, plus EA or plus EU GA enforced events. So yeah, I don't know if the GAs are going to be upheld when there's time and money on the line, but I thought that was pretty cool stuff. Just, you know, good to see local lands kind of come back into business, because it used to be a thing a few years ago, certainly pre-CDL, where these are very common indeed. Speaking of pre-CDL, I thought you guys might find this kind of mind-blowing. I saw this go around on Twitter yesterday, and I kind of couldn't believe it, although I kind of can believe it. So you guys have probably seen this fella, right? This Beavo guy, who's been doing the rounds. Every time I go on Twitter, I see this guy's face, and I'm like, come on. But he's basically the guy that doesn't chew his food. I don't really know what this content is meant to be, but he's on TikTok. You guys have probably seen this guy's face around. But it turns out that this guy has been doing lots of stuff over the last few years to various degrees of success, shall we say. And back in 2019, he actually had his own esports org, and they competed at CWL London. I saw like a cool like hype video they did, but here he is kind of showing off their facility they had to get the boys set up here in London. So thought that was kind of a crazy crossover. This guy's from Essex, of course, as well. And I will say, as Jake Hale points out, that you know, there's quite a list of COD people from Essex. So me, Jake Hale, Bryce, Beans, of course, Ben Desire from back in the day at OG Pro. Now we had Beavo to the list as well, which is pretty funny. And I think there's a couple of other ones. Louis CM, probably. I don't know if he was from the Thurrock area, something like that, but maybe not. And then Flux as well. So the this is guy, the like assistant coach basically for the Toronto Ultra, is also like Essex based. So as Jake Hale says, huge acquisition here for the boys. And yeah, adding Beavo to the list is not something that I thought we'd be seeing today. But let's talk about this situation with Shotzzy Shotzzy and Pred, because it was a big discussion for OpTic. Probably the main concern with OpTic this season was how the SMG duo is going to work. We know that Shotzzy and Hook work well because they've played together before, back in Dallas Empire, had good success together. Shotzzy and Pred, it was like, you know, how's it going to work? Who's going to do the dirty work? Who's going to get the hill time? Who's going to do the slaying? Who's going to be getting the first bloods in the search and destroys? And these are questions. Now, search and destroy, sure, they lost a fair few round 11s, but Shotzzy's been a monster in search so far. He has like a 1.75 or something in search and destroy. It's kind of absurd. But in the respawns, that's where we've seen over time, I think they've really kind of figured this out. Certain maps over the last couple of days, Pred has just been crushing it, especially in the controls, just doing what Pred has done for the last couple of years. Roaming and slaying. That is basically like, that's how I consider Pred to play. He's just a roaming slayer. He just runs around, gets kills, knows when to lay down, knows when to pre-aim, just like so good at just getting all the kills. So Shotzzy has always been trying to figure out, all right, how do I enable that playstyle? How do I play in such a way that Pred can maximize his effectiveness? And I think we've kind of seen that from Shotzzy. As he says in this clip, like, you know, getting a bit more hill time, leaning more towards the hill, and also just explains Pred's playstyle and says that it's actually pretty similar to his own in many ways, and it kind of makes sense that they were doing somewhat similar roles, but it's just Shotzzy, as he says, is a bit more insane. Like, you know, he's going to make a play that Pred is not going to make. Maybe Pred, you know, plays a bit smarter for kills at times, but also he doesn't really have necessarily the movement ability that Shotzzy does to go for the plays that Shotzzy makes. So on paper, the guys are so talented, there's no question this should work very well. But it feels like recently they've kind of come to grips with how to do that more effectively.
I love him with AG. He does like annoying sub shit that like I do. AG is basically like me, but in a he doesn't do like weird, like insane weird shit like so I cancel a lot. He's just always sprinting, laying down, taking the dirt, guaranteeing one. But I know what enables AG. So like I'm playing off him, if that makes sense. So like I would like play. That's why I'm like always playing towards hill a lot in this game, because I know like AG is like his hot spots are just way better in terms of just playing the hill. You know what I'm saying? That's why I always just play depending on like how my team's like playing. Like if teams want me to not touch the hill, then I'll do that. I know AG doesn't like the hill. I don't mind that. I don't mind getting the hill, bro. I promise you I'll do whatever the do to London. I literally could give 2 shits, bro.
So of course it's still early days in this season, but I still think we've seen evidence of this over the last couple of days that, you know, especially Pred is getting more and more comfortable. The first series they played against the Subliners, Pred had a bit of an underwhelming series, really, especially in the game 5, a couple of mistakes that were made on both sides, probably. But, you know, there was talk about, well, you know, Pred play well with shots and all this stuff. But since then, it's been very much uphill. The control has been kind of absurd. Pred has a 2.7 in control, at least in this particular map against the Ravens. Now, like, it was in the Ravens situation, so there was quite a lot of, you know, records being broken, let's say, in the hardpoint, in the search and destroy, and in the control, and for Dashy's, like, overall series numbers, really, at a 1.8 or something over the series is kind of ridiculous. And, look, none of these guys are yet sharing the kill record in hardpoint. We know that it's Simp who has the kill record right now in search and destroy at not in search and destroy, in control at 42, and then we have, in hardpoint, it's 40, all on sub-base, right, as you'd expect. So Fame, JurNii, and Diamond have all set 40 kills on sub-base, and I wonder when this will get broken, in the sense that sub-base after the patch, I don't believe is as crazy as it is right now. So I don't know, you know, someone will get 40, I think, at some point, but it'll be interesting to see when exactly that happens. But just to have a look at some of Pred's numbers overall, these are, as CDL Stats point out, the overall mode KD leaderboards in the various game modes. Lots of green in here from OpTic, to be fair. We'll have a look at those in some more detail in a second. These are, as we saw the other day, just the current stat numbers in the various modes. So, you know, purge accuracy, not having the greatest time, and then the top numbers from the major qualifiers so far: Cell, Simp, MettalZ, and then Pred is at a 1.23, Dashy is at a 1.19. So overall, KD is looking very good. Now, we'll also say, if you adjust this for KD and search and destroy, so this is what's called adjusted KD. Now, this used to be a very common stat back in Black Ops 4. We actually used to use adjusted KD all the time, and probably more so than normal KD. What this does is it applies a factor, like a rating factor, to increase the importance of kills and deaths in various game modes. So in hardpoint and control, you're going to get more kills on average than you will in search and destroy, obviously. So that means that in adjusted KD, you weight the kills and deaths in search and destroy higher to account for that. So, you know, 1 kill in search and destroy is usually worth a good couple of kills in a respawn mode. So if you have a great performance in search and destroy, that makes your adjusted KD very high. You can argue the merits of whether this stat is actually good or bad. But what it does mean is that search and destroy performance gets weighted very highly. So Shotzzy here goes to a 1.24 adjusted KD just because he's been killing it in search and destroy. And we can see that Lucky and others are also extended somewhat, and Pred then drops down to a 1.2. It also hurts the guys at the bottom kind of badly. It's pretty ugly, I'm not going to lie, for the Ravens and for Minnesota Rocker. Like, all of those guys are down here at 0.84 and below when you adjust it for relatively poor performances, I suppose, in search and destroy. And you can see those somewhat here, actually. Pretty funny that they had the burger emoji at the CleanX stats puts in for the worst performing player of each game mode so far. You know, Purge is at a 0.75 in hardpoint. Awakening's at a 0.50 in Surge. Crazy that Drazah as well. I know that Drazah mentioned this on Twitter, that he's got to figure out his Surge. It's kind of funny because Drazah's been a dominant Surge player really for the certainly last season. He was arguably the best Surge player in the world at one point on Thieves. And, you know, so interesting that we talk about how Shotzzy and Pred are going to work together, but maybe there's an argument that says, all right, how's Drazah going to fit in search and destroy, because it's a different environment to what FaZe have dealt with for the last couple of years. And it's not like FaZe have won all their searches, but they're still good in search. I mean, they've still won most of them, and Drazah's dropping a 0.55, so you wouldn't expect that to last forever. Estriel, Real, even Scrappy is down here as well at a 0.64 in search and destroy, which is kind of wild. Real is on a couple of these, unfortunately, and so is Purge with a 0.72 in control, so not pretty. But the highest KDs, for example, you got Dashy, you got Kenny, you got Shotzzy, and you got Pred. So kind of interesting that all of the OpTic guys are represented here somewhere, either in hardpoint search and destroy or in Pred's case control, where he's averaging a 1.52, which is the highest in the league so far, and Sellers at a 1.48, then Gwyn. So pretty cool stuff to see, but I thought it was interesting from their point of view on just how that's going as a duo. Might be a pretty old clip to be fair, but I definitely think it kind of indicates exactly how they've managed to improve over the last couple of weeks or so. We'll also quickly mention here most championships per calendar year that Brian Stats points out. So, you know, I think we've seen these numbers before. TJ Halley, kind of crazy, hold the record on his own in 2018, despite, you know, he won events over a couple of different teams. Rise Nation, basically, they won 4 events that season. And then last year, HyDra, Kismet, Skyz, and Priestahh won 2 at most, which is... So yeah, the competition, but also the number of events is reduced. So I guess that makes sense. But it's also an interesting stat that they become the first players ever to be the winningest players in consecutive calendar years. Now, okay, they only won 2 events in either season. You might not think it's that impressive compared to what Scump, Crim, Formal, Karma were doing in 2015, 2016, 2017. But no other players have ever gone back-to-back most championships in a calendar year in 2 consecutive years. At least no players in a very long time. The list is only Scump, Crim, Formal, Karma, Aches, and Clay. But now HyDra and Kismet joined that list over the last 12 months or so. So very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you next time.
Go back on that Ultra. Go back on Ultra.
Toronto looks
Go back
perfectly fine.
Oh my god.
What, you're looking at Ernie? Dude,
Oh my god.
is that why Ernie tweeted that?
That thing is not ending.
Wait, hold on. Is that an actual picture?
That's a never-ending tunnel. I
Wait, is
swear
that
to
an actual
God.
picture?
I was crying when
What do
Ernie
you mean
tweeted
is that actual?
Like, is that actually like how long?
What, you
is
think
that?
the CDL edited it or something?
It's a CDL trolled him.
Dude, doesn't it not look edited?
Dude, I was tweeting with
Am I
Ernie.
tripping?
It looked edited.
Yeah, Ernie tweeted 2 days ago. He's like, someone got to update my pic. Like, and then Porter tweeted him saying, nah, bro. Like, I trust me, request denied, dog. They're like, he's trolling him. Like, he's calling him maximum throat is.
That's
I
my
don't know,
boy
dude.
Ernie there.
Porter's
But
an idiot.
God damn, Ernie. That shit ain't ending.
Oh my god.
It's like the Warzone map. Just never ends.